and contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. That will get you into the studio for two-way talking conversation today behind the glass behind the board as I broadcast from the palatial but not overly ostentatious studios here atop the Carberry Towers in Westboro, Massachusetts. Our text line is running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Hey, that appears on a screen here in the studio in real time. We try to work it into the conversation. The station does stream 24/7 on the TuneIn app, so that means you can take us anywhere. We, like thousands of other radio stations, do stream the show. And the entire station 24/7. So that means you can put it on your device. If you don't have the TuneIn app, it does take seconds to download. Do me a favor, when you hit the WCRN, you see the logo. Hit the like button. We know you're there, and then we're there. Easy to find. Now, I do stream my show from the studio, camera here in the studio, so you can watch it on Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble. There's a Joe Mangiacotti Show channel on Rumble.
Hello, everybody.
Are you feeling lonely, Ted? So, where was the news? I was waiting for you to tell me what's going on in the world.
Oh, my God. Well, I can tell you this. Trump is winning.
Trump is winning. 508-871-7000 to get into the conversation. We're going to talk about tariffs and the countries that are lining up. We do got a full docket here for the hour. Reminding you that the Constitution still matters, folks. Law and order still does matter. And if common sense has anything to say about it, we're not fighting for either one of those things and the preservation of those things as well. Some good news, that does exist. It gets here from time to time. The U.S. Supreme Court, also known as SCOTUS, has just lifted Judge Boasberg's order blocking the Trump administration from deporting suspected members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua under this Aliens Enemy Act. That's right. In a 5-4 ruling, the court said, enough. You want to challenge this? Take it to the right court in Texas where these people were actually being detained. Imagine that. Venue actually matters. Now, that ties in the fact that they judge shop, right? They're going to go to the judges in the district where all the activist judges are. Sometimes they'll shop them in the San Francisco area. But when this all broke down and it was hitting the news, I said this then to you guys, folks. This is a matter of habeas corpus. And that these people, they have a recourse. They have a tool in their toolbox, and that is to file a writ of habeas corpus, which, of course, if you look into what that is, Latin for right to that body, you've got to be at that location. That's pretty much what the court just came out and said. They have recourse, and that is habeas corpus, but where they are. You can't go to a judge that's friendly to your leanings, your agenda in a different district. You have to file it where you're being detained. So that's good news, not totally out of the water here, right? They can still file for the writ. They can still argue they're going to get some of it. But this idea that a judge can order you to take somebody, a citizen from the country that they're back in, that we can go in and reach in and pull them back out? No, they can't do that. That's a little over your skis there, Judge.
So no judge shopping.
Can't judge shop. If they're being held in Texas where they were picked up, or they're being held in Louisiana where the ICE detention center, one of the largest is, that's where you file the paperwork.
Due process.
You can't pick the judges that are going to look the other way on certain constitutional issues or on certain case history and case law. So look, folks, this isn't some obscure procedural win. This is the court reinforcing a basic truth. National security is not a political football here. President Trump invoked a wartime statute from 1798 to respond to what he rightly called an incursion by these violent gang elements. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd rather see gang members heading to CECOT, which is CECOT, in El Salvador than roaming free on our streets. And we've subbed it out, right? And as Trump said, got a good deal, $6 million to house these people. Compared to the type of what it costs when they got in the country illegally, with billions of dollars. Now, I hear the cries from the left, oh, this is unprecedented, this is dangerous. Justice Sotomayor says it's an extraordinary threat to the rule of law. Really? You mean protecting citizens from violent criminal gangs now is a threat to the rule of law? Friends, if the rule of law doesn't protect the innocent, punish the guilty, it's not the law, it's tyranny. And speaking of tyranny, well, what happened at Grace Baptist Church in Connecticut? We have our little Jasmine at it again, Representative Jasmine Crockett. I don't want to call her Jazz because we have someone who works here occasionally, Ted Jazz, who's a very sweet girl, and I don't want to confuse these two people. So Representative Crockett, yes, her again, had the gall to say, and I quote, "We done picking cotton," unquote. She was trying to justify illegal immigration, saying we need people to do farm work in America that Americans won't do, right? That old tired, very tired cliche. Because that's just not the case. So let's unpack that a little bit. First of all, this is deeply offensive on so many levels. She essentially said that illegal immigrants are here to be our modern day slaves, our cotton pickers. That's not only racially charged, it's completely morally bankrupt. We don't need illegal immigration to run our economy. We need lawful immigration that respects our borders and our laws. And we do need some kind of streamlined work visa or permit that can let people who are law-abiding, not gang members. We do have it, but we even need to streamline it more. It's a big, we have it, but that's the problem. It's too encumbersome and takes too long. Where people who come in illegally, they can give us just about any name they want. This is the part. There's no vetting there. And Border Patrol has shown evidence over and over again that right before illegals cross over into the country, they will destroy a lot of their documents, their IDs, right? They'll keep them up to that point. Because some of those IDs are going to show they've been living in another country than their country of origin for a couple of years, sometimes 10 years, mainly the Haitians who left 10 years ago. And they've been living somewhere in South America. And when the Biden administration came in, they said, well, this is an opportunity to go in the country. He just said it. He said it during the debate. OCA, free Medicare. Yeah, you know the story. But they destroy the evidence that they have a perfectly fine life somewhere. Because when they come to when they're going to get that order to, report, and then they're going to appear, and they're 6-7 years later, they're in front of an immigration judge. They're going to have a big story. But the problem is, again, folks, if you're going to travel through 2 or 3 countries to get to America to seek asylum, you don't have that argument anymore. You're supposed to take safety in the first haven that you come to, the first port you reach. That's where you seek asylum. You don't get to pick and choose the country. That's just migrating. That's just trying to come to America for a better life, which I totally understand. But don't pretend that it's asylum. And this concept that they applied to, I think it was Garcia, the order not to deport, because, again, listen to this circular logic. You can't deport me because I will be in trouble. I'm in danger by the rival gangs who would kill me if I went back to Venezuela. Well, we got to deport you, though, because you're a violent gang member. No, I don't belong to any gangs. Then why would there be danger from a rival gang. If you have this fear of the rival gang, you therefore are in a gang. But this is the arguments that we put forth. So this whole sentiment that she has, very, very offensive, very morally bankrupt. And let's not kid ourselves, folks. We're deporting under the Alien Enemies Act. We aren't harvesting crops. That's not who's getting picked up right now. Remember, there's 1.5 million people that had their day in court, and the immigration judge ordered them deported, and they just left. They just stayed. They wouldn't leave. So Tom Homan and company, the Bulldog, he has to work through a 1.5 million people who actually have order for deportation on them. There is no more day in court. They're in violation of the court's decision, the court's order. They have no more day in court. They've used it up. These are people who are trafficking humans, pushing fentanyl, terrorizing communities. Jasmine Crockett is not wrong. She's dangerously out of touch. That's her problem. She's clueless on this. And here's where the conversation gets a little darker, because the rhetoric on the left isn't just clueless, it's becoming very violent. I laid it out the other day in my show. This whole vandalism and attacking Teslas and people driving Teslas, it has got to stop. People have got to be arrested, prosecuted, and then do actual jail time on this, because it's getting violent. And a new report from the Network Contagion Research Institute and Rutgers University shows an alarming trend here. Nearly half of self-described liberals think political violence, yes, like assassination against President Trump or Elon Musk, is at least, quote, somewhat justified. Let that sink in for a moment. We're not talking about disagreeing on tax policy here. We're talking about people, tens of thousands, saying it's okay to kill a political opponent. This isn't tolerance. This isn't equity. This is flat out fascism, dressed up as wokeness or in woke clothing. And yet the same media that freaks out when someone questions a voting machine, they're silent, dead silent, when actual credible threats of violence are normalized by the left. Remember when Republicans were mocked for calling out political violence? Well, it turns out we were right, and now we're watching it unfold in real time. And just when you think the temperature couldn't rise any higher, we've got the Biden administration silence. We've got Kamala's silence. We've got silence across the board there. But American people are watching. They know this isn't about immigration or farming or diversity. It's about control. It's about growing a permanent underclass that votes blue and doesn't ask questions. It's about silencing the opposition, whether through censorship or, God forbid, worse. We have to take our first break here on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Come back on the other side, back in 2 and 10, folks. Having trouble with your cell phone? You need to visit Wireless World at 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. They fix any device, including cell phones, tablets, and computers, as well as game systems. Before you buy or replace it, bring it to Wireless World at 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. Need or want a new phone? You won't believe the prices at Wireless World, 757 Grafton Street in Worcester. Before you buy new or replace your current phone, check out Wireless World, 757 Grafton Street. That's Route 122 in Worcester.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
Life is full of changes. Some we choose, some we don't. But how we handle change, that makes all the difference. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, and I'm bringing you Handling Change, a brand new show here on WCRN. Every week, we'll tackle life's biggest challenges and profile a local business or service that can help you navigate them. From career shifts to health, finances, and family. Whatever life throws your way, we've got you covered. Don't miss Handling Change. Thursdays at 10 a.m. on Radio Central WCRN 830 a.m., where New England comes to talk. All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation, which you can do for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000. Of course, the text line is running 617-297-8388. Checking the screen just as if anybody sent anything in, and we're pretty good there. So I got to talk about the Supreme Court lifting the block on the aliens enemy deportation, right? Again, we have, think about this, president who's elected, yes, through the Electoral College and so forth, but it's 50 individual state elections. They cast the vote. It is the representative way that we're set up. It's the only position that through the process we have that the entire country elects that person. Now, the one thing about Trump, and I think this is part of why a lot of people have a problem with him, he's one of the very few, if only, politician, really. I mean, Ronald Reagan was pretty there, but actually tells you what they're thinking. I mean, there's no question, you know, where Trump, what he's thinking, where he stands. But he also does what he says. And he campaigned on shutting down the border, mass deportation. I don't know how many times the man said that phrase in campaigning. Mass deportation. He also used the word tariff over and over again and told us this is what's going to happen. And we elected him. Why are you surprised that the border's secure, immigration's down, people are getting deported who are bad actors, and he is negotiating all across the globe and using tariffs as leverage? He told us what was coming. And he also told us that there's going to be a little bit of uncomfortable time and some pain here. And as far as the stock market was doing fine this morning, the point, it always is going to come back. You got to remember, when you look at it, because Bassett said something interesting, you know, about, I think 11%, no, 10% own 81% of the market in the stock market. So it's not the average person, not those of us that have the car loans and the credit card debt and maybe student loans and kids debt. We're not, you know, rocking and rolling in the stock market. We might be putting something in a mutual fund or some retirement.
Dollar cost average. Maybe.
Yeah, but who's controlling the market are the hedge fund buyers and these big companies that are doing this. And they've voted, or they've gone mostly Democrat in the last 3 or 4 election cycles. That's who is behind Biden and Obama. That's where that money's coming from.
It was an opportunity to make money, to blame it all on tariffs,
Yep.
drive it down, and start buying at the rock bottom again.
And I said this, I don't know what day last week, but I stand by this. There's only so long that they can hold out and manipulate the stock market before it's going to slingshot back like a rocket. I mean, right now with the market, when the market's down, I'm thinking of going to the mattress and actually getting some of the cash and buying in on the low. It's coming back, especially now that we have all these countries, over 70 of them, who want to negotiate. And a lot of them are just, can we go to zero?
Begging.
Let's just go to zero. The usual suspects, Canada, Britain, they're holding out. Look, one of the worst things that can happen is the fall of Britain or Europe. But that's a whole nother show and conversation. But look, at the Constitution holds here, even in the face of the chaos. The Supreme Court did its job, upheld both the letter and the spirit of the law. And we're talking, of course, specifically about the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. This was a wartime statute, but the law is still on the books. It doesn't expire, right? It doesn't go bad if you don't use it for so many years. It's still a valid law, and designed exactly for threats like this: foreign nations engaged in hostile coordinated actions on U.S. soil. That's what it was written for, and that's what we're experiencing it. Law and order over the loopholes here, folks. What we're seeing here is the return of some common sense, and if you're a suspected member of a foreign gang acting like an invading force, well, the United States have every right and duty, by the way, to remove you. Ted, you wanted to add?
Joe, I think of it as like a formula from grammar school. When you combine ignorance and narcissism, it equals reality dysphoria.
I'll stand by that. I'll go with that. So, folks, this isn't arbitrary. This is not capricious. This is protecting American families from international criminals. I think it was Martha that J.D. Vance was talking to. I can't really remember the reporter. She was one of those legacy media type broken down people when she said it's not that many apartment buildings that Trinidad is terrorizing people at. And you remember there was another in that same Colorado complex. Then the news came out about the couple that they took and tortured for hours, bound up, tortured. What does that say to you? That wasn't arbitrary. That means those people somehow fit into this. There was information or something that they had to get out of them. They were involved with that gang. They were known to that gang. God, I hope it wasn't just an innocent American couple, but something deeper was going on there that I never saw anything in the news about it. And Trinidad is not just a gang that is an invasion. We didn't even know who they were before the Biden administration, but they got a foothold and they've spread through every state. Every state now, actually. I mean, they have big presence in the border states, Texas, Arizona, then they're in Colorado, but they're also in New England, in Chicago. They are in every state. And they're in Massachusetts because we've deported some of them out of Massachusetts. And Trump was right to act and act fast. And the court agreed with that. Critics cry foul about rush deportations. Are they really rushed, though? But the court made it clear the detainees are in Texas. That's where they should seek redress, not in D.C. So we're back to the principles of habeas corpus, but the right to the body has to be taken up with the authority holding that body.
Local jurisdiction.
Absolutely. You can't go to see the judge that has a track record like a FISA court judge who accepts the lies in the falsified documents, or you see at the cocktail parties and Christmas parties. You know what I'm saying with that inner belt swamp. The Supreme Court didn't say these individuals have no rights. As a matter of fact, they were very clear on the opposite of that. So they said there's a proper process and it must be followed. And that they do have, now they're not exactly the same rights as an American citizen by all means or anything. And the due process is different when you're illegally here, but there is a due process and it must be followed. But part of that is you got to deal with the jurisdiction that holds them, not the judges that are going to go your way no matter what, which means they've got to bend the law. So due process still stands here. Despite the left's fear-mongering, the court did affirm that the detainees must receive notice and a chance to be heard. That's fine. So let's stop with the hysteria on this. No one is being thrown onto a plane without the opportunity to challenge it. But the challenge needs to happen in the right place and under the right law. Again, Sotomayor, joined by the court's liberal wing, is more outraged over the deportation of gang members than she is over the crimes that they actually committed. And that's often the case we see with the left, right? They focus on something, but not ever addressing the serious crime that underlies the situation. Ted, you wanted to
In
add?
her statement, she clearly described emotion. She clearly described that we can do better. Those were her words. So her decision wasn't based on law. It was based on her emotions.
She also used another piece of this terminology. Her dissent warns about, quote, lawless regimes. Now, I saw some jamoke of a professor on some clip on TV also referring to this as a regime. I don't care if you didn't vote for Trump. He is the duly elected president of the United States. This is an administration. This is the office of the presidency. It's not a regime. And I know that the Orwellian wordplay that they're attempting to play here, he's no less of a president than any other person elected to that office. Again, the office is bigger than the man or woman that will hold it. Yet it's the administration that's following existing law here, passed by Congress and upheld by the court. So who's the one acting outside of the norms on this? Now, this CCOT, right, the international cooperation that we're having, that's CCOT is a maximum security prison, right? Hundreds of these violent criminals were sent to El Salvador's high security CCOT prison under the law with a negotiated $6 million deal with President Buckle. That's international cooperation done appropriately, and we're keeping Americans safe and respecting their nation's sovereignty. It's an agreement between the two nations. And some might argue, okay, this is constitutionally aggressive. The president invoked a legal constitutional statute, not an executive whim. Right? That's the other point, that the media, mainstream, tries to kind of twist it that way. And when Trump sees a threat to American sovereignty, he doesn't hesitate. That's leadership rooted in strength, not submission. He is all about America first, all about our sovereignty, all about American excellence. The D.C. judge overstepped by blocking action that's clearly within the executive's power under the Alien Enemies Act. Now, the Supreme Court rightly pushed back, reminding the judiciary its limits and the executive of the constitutional strength here, folks. It's about America's right to defend itself. We have the right. No, actually, we have the obligation to protect our borders, our people, and our national securities. And the Enemies Act may be centuries old, but the principle is timeless. When foreign nationals pose a threat to our nation, respond decisively and lawfully. Common sense, folks, and it's constitutional. We have to take our mid-show break here on the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. We're looking at low and mid 40s this afternoon. Of course, it's going to feel cooler because it's going to be very blustery out there. Gusts up to 50 miles per hour could mean some isolated wind damage, and that's why we've got a wind advisory through the afternoon and tonight. Skies will be partly cloudy, and it will likely stay dry. Now, tomorrow, cold start in the 20s, and high temperatures make it to the upper 40s. That's still below average, but at least tomorrow you've got full sun to look forward to. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. From top quality fuel to freshly stocked snacks and essentials, Yatco has you covered. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. For Yatco rewards, simply download the Yatco app and sign up. Friendly, clean, local, and always convenient. Make Yatco your favorite food and fuel stop. Stop by Yatco food and fuel stations today and experience the Yatco difference. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
All right, folks, welcome back. Second half of the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. Of course, you can join the conversation at 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Don't forget the text line is running at 617-297-8388. And I am streaming all the time whenever the show's on, whether it's from the WCRN studios or the Cameo studios, on my Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream to Rumble as well as the station's Facebook page. And if you haven't gone to WCRM 830 AM Facebook, please do that. Give us a like and follow button over there. We try to populate it with station information and shows as well. And of course, there's a YouTube channel. But most people seem to watch it on Facebook, so that's fine with me. 508-871-7000. So Trump's tariff policy and trade negotiations. Now, what he's doing, it can be two things at once. It doesn't have to be exclusive. All right, so one, as we've talked about over and over, is the nations like our neighbor to the north and our neighbor to the south who were allowing people to violate the country and our sovereignty via their country and border. They needed to be woken up on that. And then just the simple fact of reciprocal tariffs. Not a hard concept. If you're slapping us with 20, 30, and in some cases, I mean, motorcycles to India, 100% tariff on American bikes going in. How many Fords and Chevys do you see driving around Tokyo or Beijing or Bangkok? Okay. So President Trump isn't just tossing around tariffs. He's strategically using them as a negotiation tool. And he's been right on so many things and ahead of the curve on so many things. Do we not owe him more than a few weeks? Do we not owe him some time to follow through on this plan that he has going on? And you have to know by now, whatever he is saying first or up front isn't what he really wants or isn't what he really expects. But he's going to end up getting you to settle or accept, probably more like it, what he wants. So just let him do his thing. It's a negotiating tool. And he's not handing out freebies like somebody else or suspending tariffs or sanctions for that matter across the board. He's saying, if you want a fair deal, come to the table. If not, we're done. Now, the countries that don't get in and get this done right away, they're going to get on the short end of this. And that's you, Canada and Britain. Wake up. Because I don't know what you're thinking, but I mean, we had 4 years of stupidity here too, folks. So that's not chaos. That's called strength. That's called putting America's interests first, exactly what a president should be doing. Common sense trade equals rules for all. And it has to get to that point. This isn't about isolation or isolationism. This is about reciprocity. Thank you. I read into that. Reciprocity in the tariffs. You treat our goods fairly, and we treat yours fairly. And 0-0, neither nation's making money from that, but it's fair trade. And fair trade helps the economy. Because one of the reasons many manufacturers left the country was because of the cheap labor. And it was still cheap to bring it into the country. We are the biggest consumer on the planet, meaning America, folks. Right? $27 trillion. Nobody consumes as much as we do. Nobody can outlast us in a trade war. For decades, other nations, especially the EU, have played hardball. Well, we played nice. Okay. We'll pay your deficit. And when we say we will pay, that means you. Government has no money. It's all our money. Trump's saying not anymore. The Constitution doesn't demand we be suckers on the world stage, folks. Fair trade is constitutional. Getting ripped off is not part of the program here. So tariffs is a tool, not a weapon. You'll see a lot of these disappear. You're going to see some countries are going to take a little more pain to realize that they have to negotiate something with us. Just the way it is. A lot of, yeah. Come on and sit down. They are prioritizing now what countries to talk to first. Trump will make the final decision on all this, but the media loves to scream trade war, and the stock market's horrible, and he's killing the economy. But what we're seeing is negotiation, just like any business deal, and he's got a good track record with that. Trump is making it clear tariffs are the leverage gear, not the goal. If other nations want lower tariffs, they need to meet us in the middle. They got to have that conversation. Some of them are very quick to say, hey, can we talk about this? How about nothing? Does that work for you? We won't have any tariffs. You don't have any tariffs. And I don't know the exact number. It's $6 to $7 trillion in investment coming back into the country. And all of that investment is going to result, yes, it's going to take ramp up time. They're going to have to retool some factories, but they're also going to have to build some facilities. But the middle class that has basically disappeared in this country and shifted overseas will come back. And that means our revenue for the country, for taxes, employment taxes, spending taxes, sales taxes, all of the taxes that come from that a gainfully employed person spends every time they go out. The clothing that they need, well, the clothing's tax exempt, but the materials, the furniture, the TVs, and the dining tax, it's a lot of tax, folks. Stop for a moment and look at how much you get check or your money goes into one tax or the other. Sales tax, income tax, first of all, sales tax, excise tax, meals tax. It's a leverage right now. And that's law and order applied globally. We don't reward bad behavior. We incentivize fairness here. That's the goal behind all this. Netanyahu, he was sitting with Trump the other day. He gets it. He told Trump Israel would wipe out its trade deficit with us very quickly. That's also leadership. And that's respect. And the Jewish people, I'm talking about the Israel, not necessarily Hollywood Jewish people or New York Jewish people here, but Israel respects Trump tremendously. Trump has lowered the 17% Israeli tariffs. Hasn't done it yet, but he's listening. And Israel is stepping up, showing how you negotiate in good faith in this case. But the EU, it doesn't get it. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a problem. They haven't showed a great track record in managing the EU as a unit, right? Look at Britain, critics, all of that. European Union is offering 0 for 0 on industrial goods. But that's like offering a Band-Aid for a bullet wound, folks. It's one thing, one sector. Trump said that's not good enough. No. And he's right. The EU has spent years slapping us around with regulations, restrictions, and tariffs. Now they want a sweetheart deal. Not so fast. And the other part of this is I think we should be considering whether the countries, these nations that we're dealing with, are kind of practicing Western ways, or maybe, for lack of a better term, American ways. Where are they on freedom of speech and human rights? Where are they? I mean, just because they say they're a democratic nation and so forth, are they really, though? These are countries, some of these countries we're dealing with are doing the same lawfare that we saw here, which is hard for us to lecture somebody when the Democrats did what they did to Trump as a candidate. But they're changing elections, suspending elections. Then they're arresting people for making posts on social media. England actually has laws, so does Germany. And we have to say, do we want to actually do business with certain countries? Now, we always have, because that's the nature of the economy and having to survive. We've done business with dirty folk. You were going to say something?
Yeah, even though you can't pray 2 blocks away from a special building in Great Britain, that's a sure indication that free speech has been lost.
It's on life support in America, as far as I'm concerned, especially when we had the government trying to make up these accuracy or information bureaus or disinformation bureaus. And then when you have literally people who express their opinion online being arrested. A woman just got sent to jail for 2 years in England the other day because she went on a rant about an illegal alien in England who raped a child, and they lock her up. Now,
Joe, these are cultural and social indicators. One of the things that the Trump administration understands that all of these other people are missing is that a big factor in international manufacturing is contract manufacturing. And then they sell it in the United States. So the idea is born in the United States, it's shipped to China to be manufactured, and then they sell it back. Trump is trying to close that loophole.
And the other part is they might actually assemble something on United States soil, but all the components and most of it actually was made somewhere else. But it comes in some pieces put together at a receiving plant here, and they said this is American made. But 90% of the materials were made outside the country, and even a good portion of it might have been. Some of the cars are that way, by the way.
Chrysler.
So, look, Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, seen him in a lot of interviews. Didn't really know who he was, liking him a little bit now. So he was saying in the news here that 70 countries are reaching out to negotiate. Why? Because they need access to the U.S. market again. I know China has population, but our average American citizen, actually lives like a king compared to some other places on this planet. We're a consumer-driven market here. Folks, we're going to take our third and final break here on the Tuesday edition. Stick with us. Back in 2 and 10, folks.
Looking for guidance as you face a future on Social Security? It's hard to figure out on your own. But MedicareAdvisors.com is a completely independent insurance agency specializing in Medicare insurance planning. We work with the top insurance companies so we can offer our clients the best coverage for them. We design plans with a focus on low costs, which we combine with personalized insurance advice aimed at helping our clients make better informed decisions. Russ Swallow is a certified senior advisor and a licensed insurance advisor. He's been helping clients with their health insurance needs since 1970. And after a failed attempt at retirement, he created the Medicare Advisors in 2014. Russ concluded that since Medicare is health insurance, he might as well put his almost 50 years of health insurance experience to good use, as 75,000 people reach age 65 in Massachusetts every year, and they can use some help. Call Russ today at 508-831-0805. Put his years of personal experience to work for you. as you try to unravel the complexities of Social Security.
This is Jerry Doherty, host of Making Money Last, right here on WCRN. Like all business owners, I'm interested in why people choose to work with Boston Independence Group. So I asked my clients. The most common response, Jerry does not try to be all things to all people. Boston Independence Group is specialized, focused solely on retirement planning. My customers enjoy the difference. We do one thing, and we do it exceptionally well. Help other people live better in retirement. That's it. If you're ready to retire or making plans to retire, we can do for you what we've done for hundreds of other retirees throughout New England. Live better in retirement. Just give me a call. I'll show you how. My toll-free number is 877-772-1776. Again, that number is 877-772-1776. And you can visit us on the web at bostonindependencegroup.com. bostonindependencegroup.com.
All right, welcome back, folks, for the fourth and final segment here on the Tuesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. So 70 nations want in, and that's a win, folks. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that 70 countries reaching out to negotiate because they need this market. They have to have it. They can't survive without it. And that's not a sign of failure. It's a sign that Trump's policy is working. Now, I don't think Trump thought when he put these tariffs in, they were going to be here, never mind at the back end of the year, not even midway through the year. He knows what's going to happen. And he's sick of the United States playing weak on this. Now the world sees that we mean business and we're willing to sit down, but not sell out. He's going to make good deals. And I think that when you have career politicians like a Joe Biden in there, or somebody that's sucked into the DC mentality, they feel that this, we are the richest country and all this, and they seem to give the farm away. They don't have this. Trump, he doesn't think like that. Every decision he makes is going to affect his bottom line and whatever golf course or resort or property he has, skyscraper he builds. So he thinks of things different than a politician does. He's thinking of these things as a businessman. And in this case, his fiduciary responsibility isn't to the Trump organization or board of directors. It's to the American people. It's to the country. Trump is personally involved with all of this because he does care about it.
Joe, we are the stockholders.
Well, we are. He's the president, the corporation is the United States of America. And Trump isn't farming this out and walking away. He's personally involved in these negotiations with leaders like Japan's Ishaba. Now, Bissett and these other secretaries are prioritizing and who's going to get to go first, but the bottom line is going to be Donald Trump. He's got Bissett, and he has U.S. Trade Rep Jamieson Greer heading up these teams, but the president himself is at the table, and that's what leadership does look like. Presidents lead. They don't delegate America's sovereignty. And the previous guy just was I'm not taking a bash at him. I'm not going punching down or lowballing.
I will.
The fact is, he did not have the wherewithal to be able to hold any of these discussions. When now it's even worse than we even thought it was, because they had to put fluorescent tape on the hallway so he knew what to follow. He needed a teleprompter to meet among his own staff. He wouldn't even been able to have conceived this level of negotiation and conversations. And the left's hypocrisy on tariffs, too much here. Let's not forget, when China slapped tariffs on us, the left was silent. But when we push back, they lose their minds. And I love that there's a clip, if you can find, I'm sure you can find it. I reposted it on my social media, Joe Mangiacotti Show, of Nancy Pelosi in the 90s with a little chart talking about how unfair these tariffs are with China and that America's getting screwed. I didn't know she was a Republican back then.
You might not recognize her because it was before the terrible
face.
Yeah, the
Plastic
replacement
surgery
face she was given.
Yeah, no. This is 30 years ago. She actually looked very nice. So let's not forget, when China slapped those tariffs on us, they were silent. And now they're losing their minds. Why is it controversial to stand up for American workers, for American farmers, for American manufacturing? If tariffs mean we finally get fair deals, then let's embrace them as a necessary tool, not a dirty word, and take the politics out of it. Bottom line, you can't or you don't get what you don't ask for. And this is about playing hardball to get better deals. That's Business 101. That's Constitutional Conservatism 101. And if we want strong borders, we have to defend economic borders too. That isn't about punishing others. It's about protecting us.
You could go with this or you could go with that.
That's it. Common sense conversation for the common sense citizen, folks. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's jump to the phones. Ken's been waiting patiently. Hey, Ken, what say you?
Hi, Joe. Just to comment real quick, what you were just saying about Pelosi. You just have to recognize everything Democrats say is pre-woke and post-woke.
Yeah.
And in many cases, they're the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Good point. You're right, because she was, and don't forget, I mean, Obama, right? He did the, what did he call it? Commission on Waste. He had another term for Doge. Basically, he had his version of Doge. Bush did too. But because it's coming from Trump, everyone has to have a problem with it.
Clinton too.
And Clinton did too. Yeah. Yeah. And Clinton, here's another point on that. Because Clinton, right, this goes back to Newt Gingrich times that we had a balanced budget in the 90s. But part of the reason that they had that balanced budget is they raided Social Security. Why weren't they going nuts? Because Trump isn't raiding Social Security. And somehow getting rid of the fraud in Social Security, that people at 210 years old getting a check, that is going after Social Security. If we got rid of the fraud that is happening right now, and we the taxpayers had to pay back all the money taken out of that, because it's not tax money in there. That's a fiduciary account.
Trust.
It is a trust that we paid into. And it wasn't there for general fund, and they took money from it for the general fund. If they replace all of that, get rid of the fraud, and then take the SSI out of it, take the welfare programs out of it, and only people who are retired or on SSDI, not SSI, it will be a solvent fund.
It's not raiding, it's fortifying.
Your thoughts, Ken?
Yeah, well, I wanted to get your thoughts of what just happened late yesterday as far as the
court decision.
Yeah, those being deported to El Salvador. Are we to read into the rights of the illegal immigrant gang members that they have the equivalent now of Miranda rights?
No.
You see what I'm getting at? In other words, they're now that's part of the decision. Yes.
I didn't see anything about Miranda rights. The court said.
Well, they didn't call it that way.
Right, but they have the right to a hearing, but it's a hearing not the same that a citizen gets, but it's a hearing based on their detention, and it has. In the argument was because they shopped the judges, and when they were getting DC judges to make this, which is asinine, that 248 district judges can stop a president in his track with these national orders. That wasn't in our founding fathers. They didn't think of this. They didn't even have district judges. Congress made that later. So no, they said that they have a right to due process, not the same due process, that the right of habeas corpus, but that has to happen where they're held. You can't go to another jurisdiction and says this entity is holding this person, and we want the body. That's what Latin for habeas corpus, right to that body. We want that body. Well, it has nothing to do with you. You're not holding them. They're not being held in your jurisdiction. You got to go to the court that oversees that jurisdiction, and they have a right to that hearing. But they don't. I didn't see anything about Miranda
Think of it
rights.
as an exit interview.
Anyway, Ken.
Joe, the key thing is we know the ACLU and all the other groups are going to be, wires up high, and we should expect virtually all of those who are detained in the future who are going to challenge, regardless of the evidence being obvious, they're gang members. They're going to do everything to come up to work. So now it's going to be a test of wherever they are held, how close to Boasberg are the court system, whether it be Texas or anywhere else.
Okay.
And for that matter, the warning is all of these people, you know where they're going to go. First thing, if they happen to be in a even close to red state now, they're coming to Massachusetts, another blue state.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of them were doing that anyway because the programs, they got hotels and food and work, they were doing that anyway. If you had your choice of going to New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, California, who's going to go to Wyoming? You know what I'm saying? Or Louisiana. But the point is, they're doing that anyway. And this is just saying, like I said at the top of the show, it's a victory, not 100% victory, in the sense that it just said you can't do what you just did. These people have a right to due process, but it's the due process that deals with illegal immigration. It's not the same thing as a citizen breaking. So they have a right to be heard about if they get picked up by ICE. Well, wait a minute. Is ICE done their due diligence? Have you violated? Do you have do you have a deportation order on you? Have you committed a crime? Have you filed? Are you here totally illegally, or did you report and get a order to report but never follow through with that? And of course, let's not forget, if you are here on a visa, say a tourist visa, and you don't return when the visa runs out, you're technically illegally here. So there's a violation of the tourist visa. So there's a lot of levels and degrees on how you can be here legally. Then you got to deal with what you do within the color in the lines if you're here, or you coloring outside the lines when you're here. So they've got to look at that. So this court ruling, it says, hey, you can't do that, but they do have a right to a process. Not the Amanda right. I didn't see anything about that at all, Ken.
Well, I'm just equating it, that's all.
Yeah.
And just in closing, we haven't heard the last of Boasberg.
No.
Ultimately, somebody's going to have to discipline him.
Yeah. They do. A final thought, Ken? I'm against the clock.
No, that's it.
All right. All right. Thank you for the call, man. Always appreciate it. Yeah. I think Boasberg, as well as a lot of other judges, need to be sent a message, and that message is you got to stay in your lane, and you cannot think you're equal to one of the branches of government. But that wraps up the Tuesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. I'm Joe Mangiacotti, back tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock for the Wednesday edition. Frankie Boyer is coming up next year at 2 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. Joe out, folks.